Welcome along to this evening's football show. We have much to discuss. By the way, if you didn't catch me mentioning it earlier on, we'll have live commentary tomorrow of Ireland against Qatar from the Aviva Stadium. Kickoff is at 7:45. 25,000 fans will be along, which is a sellout in the current circumstances. So that's on the way tomorrow. This, of course, after a 3-0 win in Baku on Saturday evening. Very happy, everybody, to bring in some Canadian TV royalty. Kevin Kilbane, hello.
Hi Joe, how's it going?
Do you get stopped by people down the street now? Oh my God, Kev from the TV.
No, I'll come back to that. I apologise for my signal's not been great here at the moment, so I'm sorry if I've been causing a few panics with you and JP there trying to get online here, so I apologise.
You can imagine the things we were saying about you as we were wondering were you going to show up.
Oh, I can well imagine. Well, JP's on my case. He tried to get me on last week, didn't he? Hour after the Liverpool City game last week, didn't he? And I couldn't come on, and JP's then getting more and more agitated and more stressed that I can't come on. So I'm sorry. I apologise. I'd love to come on more, but the time difference obviously affects us, doesn't it?
He accepts your apology, as do I.
No, but I'll come back to the original point, though. It's quite funny, Joe, honestly, here. We live quite a little bit out of the city. We're about an hour, I think I've said to you before, about an hour from Toronto, an hour, we're our east of Toronto, yeah. So a few weeks ago, maybe about a month or so ago, after I did the Euros was quite a big thing here, because obviously it's the next generation that's watching the games. And literally we're out in the sticks, we were out just having a walk, my wife and baby were out having a wander, and two girls came past on the bike. They're about 12 years of age, 12, 13, I'd say they would have been, came past, and one of them stopped me, one of the girls. I mean, it's the most bizarre thing ever, really, when you think about it, really. And said, "Oh, are you Kevin Kilbane?" And I said, I am, yeah. She goes, "Oh, you were great. We love watching you through the Euros." So it is great here. You see certainly different aspects of, you know, the younger girls watching the soccer here, as they say. So it's been interesting from that. But you do once or twice I've been recognised, but that's about it. Low profile.
Well, we've got to get you on TikTok. You got to speak to your fans.
No. Come on, Joel. Let's be honest now. No, that's not happening.
So, well, listen. Thanks for making time for us. Appreciate you're busy.
No problem.
And
pleasure,
by the way,
absolute pleasure.
so I know the Euros was big. I mean, you're a very hard man to get on the phone. So I'll just have a personal conversation with you here for just a moment, and then we'll talk Ireland. So, in terms of the Canadian TV, then, are you doing MLS? Are you doing any European football? What's the Kilbane schedule from a TV point of view at the moment?
No, I work on TSN, which is the Canadian Sports Network here. Yeah, we had the rights to the Euros. We have the rights to the next couple of World Cups, which will be a big deal here in 2026 when the World Cups across North America, in Mexico, the US, and Canada. So there'll be games here. So we're hoping we're getting traction ahead of that. The men's team's going great. You know, they're approaching a top 50 ranking as well now. So soccer, which has surprised me, I think I've said to you here, is been really taking off. As I said, when the women have obviously just won the Olympics, so they're going great. The men's team there's some serious talent within the men's team here right now, absolute serious talent. They're a great team to watch going forward. So everything's taken off. So for me personally, it's been great. It's been a nice time to arrive, to see the national team doing well. And I'm covering the MLS. I started, as I said, with the Euros, and now I'm just doing the MLS coverage for them. So it's been good. It's obviously, you know, I'm still watching all the Premier League games, which is great to get a gauge of where the MLS actually is. And we know clearly it's a long way from European football, but there is one or two players that are starting to taking note of, and there have been one or two that have been a success in Europe, of course. So it'll be interesting to see over the next few years which one of the Canadian players can maybe transition to European football and start to make a name for themselves.
And are you going into studio and COVID's died down and all that stuff's happening now, yeah?
Yeah, vaccination for me was a bit of a problem actually to get sorted, because I wasn't resident here, and I'm still actually not resident as at the moment, which I'm hoping will be sorted in the next month or two. But I managed to get vaccinated. I've had a double vaccination, so going into studio now is no problem for me. A lot of the industries here have started up where unless you've been vaccinated, you can't even work within those companies. So I've been pleased now that I can now go into studio without any issues, and it's been great from that point of view. Yeah.
Good man. When you started off your sentence there by saying the vaccination has been a problem for me, I thought, oh no, he's about to go full Callum Robinson here. He's going to be all over Liveline tomorrow.
I was listening to all you guys last week. I listened to the show most days actually. So it was interesting to see the take on it with Callum Robinson, particularly with what happened to him at the weekend. Yeah, so it couldn't keep him out of the news.
He was everywhere. Front pages, back pages, Liveline losing its mind. It was a big story. Yeah, it was huge. So, well, I guess he scored and did his celebration. And one last one about your Canadian persona, the Kevin Kilbane type that the young people of Canada are obsessed with, I'm hearing. Would you be regarded as a tough critic? I'm trying to get a gauge for like what the Canadian style of punditry is. Would you be regarded as somebody who's like, oh geez, he's a bit tough on the players, or are they all giving it to the players? Where do you fall on that spectrum? I would have said over here you were never cruel, but in fairness, I always felt like you were giving your opinion, which is, not always a guarantee. What about over in Canada? Are you like the Dunphy of Canada?
Yeah, one sec. No worries. Sorry, just getting colder. Where am I? I don't know. I don't know how I'm perceived. I don't know. I'll wait and see on that one. I'd say they probably think of me a little bit more harsh. I would say, yeah. Whoa. I definitely think that'll be the case. Yeah.
Okay, Canadian listeners, let us know, please. @OffTheBall on Twitter. I want to know how is Kilbane going down over in Canada. So let's get the name right.
It's wound me up since I've been 5 years of age. So I'm making sure that my name is pronounced correctly wherever I go. Yeah.
Look, any Canadians unsure, don't mind him. It's how it reads, which is Kilbane. Don't mind him.
Joe, come on now, come on. No, you're better than that. You're a Mayo man at heart, you know that. So let's be quite frank about that now. There you go.
Let's talk Baku then. 3-0 win, Ireland's biggest winning margin since 2015. Jeez, God, I just couldn't believe we haven't won by 3 since 2015, but I suppose we are where we are. What did you make of the performance? Obviously, the win is great, but generally we've tried to judge the Kenny era on the performance.
I know that. I think I've hated the narrative every single game that we're coming in. Look, should he stay? Should he go? There's obviously there's a lot that's for him, a lot that's against him. It does seem like there's a huge split at the moment, and the narrative is helping nobody, is it? Let's be honest. So, I felt at the weekend. Actually, I actually thought it was exciting to watch at the weekend. Regardless, I don't think the team played well in spells, particularly after going in front. But there were spells where it was good to watch. Good attacking football at times. Good. I felt as though that there were certainly spells where you were watching it going, you were getting off your seat. And I have certainly for a majority of the games through this era, I haven't felt that way at all. I haven't felt it in any way. So that was the most impressive thing I felt, that there was a lot of excitement, a lot of penalty box excitement with chances created, risk taking, and the risk that's been taken throughout. I felt throughout the last 15, 16 games or whatever, it hasn't necessarily been in the right areas, and I think we've been caught out too often, and that's how I viewed it. I haven't really enjoyed it. I haven't enjoyed watching the team. I have to say that for so many of the games, and and I hear in afterwards that it's technically a way better performance, and the team's playing a certain way and trying to progress. And I get that we actually have to give the team time to progress, and the things are going to be ironed out along the way. But it's been the lack of creativity, I think, in the team, the lack of just in the final third, a few people taking a few more chances, and that has been the noticeable thing that I've found. A majority of the first half of games, Joe, and I don't know if you felt like yourself as well, a majority where you've come away and there's been one shot or no shots on target, and there's been nothing to really whet your appetite for the second half of games. And in fairness, the second half of these games, a majority of the time has been better, don't get me wrong, but I've just felt as though throughout it's just been very laboured and hard to watch. I felt it's been very hard to watch, and I know, as I said, that it's about progressing and progressive style of football, and we're trying to teach the players a different style of play and taking the ball in tighter areas, absolutely, and that's only going to make the players better. But it's been the lack of excitement that I felt. If you look at the Serbia for the last 10 minutes of that game, where there was excitement and you were going, this is actually okay. I mean, that was it was a terrible performance against Serbia, I felt, and I'm just talking in terms of stopping them playing. Let's really stop their technical players playing, because Serbia outplayed us for such long spells in that game. But I think even against Azerbaijan, we were outplayed with the ball at times, but I was pleased with the way that we played on the counter-attack. And if I'm looking across Stephen Kenny's reign as a whole, our best performances have been playing counter-attacking style of football, where we've used the wide area as well. Portugal was a prime example of that, where I was excited watching the team. I thought it's a really good performance. I thought there's something to build on here. But we probably had 25-30% possession in that game. It wasn't necessarily in keeping with what we imagine Stephen Kenny's style of football to be. That's the way that I would see that. So I think there are different ways that you can actually play certain teams. And I felt at the weekend against Azerbaijan, allowing them possession at times and really going and pressing the second or third pass into midfield, then I thought we got a lot more joy off the back of that.
Yeah, I think that's all very fair. There have certainly been games under Kenny where the possession has been almost the end goal. It was just possession for possession's sake and quite dull, and often in our own half. And I suspect for other teams we weren't that tricky to play against. And maybe that was just part of the learning process, and players had to become more used to it. But equally, you would have to say there has been a shift in the team's approach in the last 6 months. We were mentioning before you came on in the first hour, you think of Luxembourg in March and the team struggling to beat the Luxembourg press, but continually trying and not getting anywhere and being stuck in their own half, versus by way of a progression, say against Serbia, we saw Bazunu clipping balls to wing backs, and then on Saturday we saw Bazunu going to Ida past halfway on, I would say, the majority of occasions. So that's a massive turnaround in 6 months.
Well, there's different ways to play, isn't there? You even look back to the only victory before the weekend, that Andorra game, where, let's be honest, it was looking a disaster. It was looking an absolute disaster. I know we'd gone behind, but they were actually outplaying us. They were pressing us in our own half. We were trying to play around them. We were getting caught out.
Yeah.
And we go on and get the 3 goals, but that wasn't so long ago. So I think we do need to put things into perspective and say, well, look, let's look to the next few games. Let's just see the campaign out. Let's see how it goes. Let's look at the Qatar game tomorrow evening. Let's see how that goes. Let's see how everything's going. I'm still split. And if we're talking about pure progression of everything, I've not necessarily, I listened to the interview you did with Keith last week, and it was great. It was nice to hear Keith talking about how they're analysing games, and we both know Keith, and I know the way that Keith works, and I know that he fully wants to take everything on board in terms of opposition and how the team's playing themselves, how we can implement our style on opposition, but I haven't necessarily seen it to get excited. That's the only thing that I would say up to now, and I hope that that's going to come.
Yeah. So what was the big difference for you on Saturday? I know you can use, we use broad things like, well, more chances created and more penalty box moments, and I get all that. But what do you think was the reason that all happened? Like, why were Ireland better in those areas, do you think, on Saturday?
I obviously a lot more positive. I was really impressed with James McLean, how he played at wing back. Yeah. I've constantly spoken about the fact is I've spoken about just one sec. I've spoken about how he's not necessarily been suited to that role that he's played in, but I feel as though he's getting better and better, and he's looked a lot more comfortable in the last few games playing that way. I was impressed with him at the weekend. Wider areas. I mean, I listened to Stephen Kenny's interview that he did with Nathan. It was a great interview, and I thought the way that he analysed Portugal against Germany at the Euros about wider areas and how they can exploit wider areas, and Germany did that against Portugal and how they got the win. We could clearly see that he took that into the Portugal game, and the wider areas was obviously Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty in those games that were producing the wider areas. But I think in obviously the last two, Matt Doherty's been excellent, I felt, in the last few games especially, but also James McLean, when he's been asked to play in that role, I think has been playing well also. But also, I think more so up front. I think you've got someone like Callum Robinson on those counter-attacks when we go and press quickly, win the ball back. On those turnovers, we've got players, I think, running away from the man on the ball, and I've just felt so often everyone's been coming towards the ball, and it's always been your first pass. Then when you're coming towards the ball, it's always going to be backwards. It takes the sting out of attacks, where if you've got someone running off the shoulder defenders, then it stretches teams, and that's where I think we've got a bit of joy recently.
It does seem like Kenny has pretty much settled on this team shape, give or take, I'm sure a tinker or two. So that back five, Bandelli, Duffy, Egan, I guess you've Darrow Shea waiting in the wings. Coleman can fill in there in that back three if needs be. That seems fairly set. Bazunu's fairly set. I'm sure Queven Keller's got something to say about that, but that's fairly set as well. And then wing backs, as you said, McLean's going really well, and you've backup options there if you need them. And similarly, Doherty's gone very well, and you can put Coleman there. So there are a lot of reasons to like Bazunu and that back five.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something again that we've spoken about. I always and Stephen Kenny's teams that he's put out over the years, whether that's been at Dundalk or wherever, I think predominantly he would have liked to have gone with the back four, and I've always said it constantly to you. I prefer back fours attacking. I always think it gives you more options when you're going forward, but the back three absolutely works. Why not? Why not change a system to suit personnel within your side? And I'll always be in favour of that. Play a system that suits the players you've got, and it seems to absolutely fit the bill in terms of what we have. And I've liked the system, as you say. It's continuity as a back three, absolutely. Shane Duffy's been tremendous, really, given what had happened to him last season. He has been excellent. John Egan, excellent. They look solid together as a pair in Bamadelli, I'll get the name right. Or Coleman, whoever it's been that's asked to play on that side, as you say, we look settled, and you can tell that it's been worked on. We're having the discussion now. We can actually tell that the system has been worked on defensively without the ball. We look solid at times. Sometimes we have been easy to counter on. I think when we've been a little bit too stretched, when teams have won the ball back from us in our own half, we've been very easy to counter against. But I've got to say I've been impressed with Josh Cullen as well when he's been playing in that role as a holding midfielder. I think in midfield is where we are lacking, absolutely. I think we're not controlling games enough for what Stephen Kenny's been telling us and how they want to go about things. Midfield of the game is something that we've been seriously lacking across his entire reign. I think that's easy to see from anybody's point of view. But defensively and absolutely, Bazunu has been he's been incredible to watch, and I've liked watching him play, and I like his temperament, not just in his shot stopping. I love his temperament. Everything he does, he makes it look easy. He doesn't throw himself around the pitch. He's not a screamer and shouter. Not that we've seen it from one or two other goalkeepers. So you can't help but be impressed with how he's adapting to senior international football, given his age.
Yeah, he's been nothing short of phenomenal. He really has. So such an addition.
I came into the squad just after Shay had come in, so it's probably maybe a year or two after Shay Given. Yeah, that's maybe something that we can only relate to when we're talking about a young goalkeeper. Really, stamping his authority and showing how good he is at such a young age. Bazunu, slightly less experience, it has to be said, has shown that same temperament, that same level of ability that Shay would have had 20, 25 years ago, whenever that was. So it looks great for us, I think, from that point of view, that we've got such a young goalkeeper that's playing to that level, but also showing the temperament. That's the thing that I would say. He doesn't look too flustered with anything. And it looks to me like he's going to be able to... He will get better, of course he'll get better, but if he has a setback in the game, he's not going to let it affect him. And I like everything that he's been doing, I really do.
So and I suppose it's more Stephen Kenny here, we're trying to predict what he's thinking. If he's happy with Bazunu and he's happy with that back three / back five shape, that brings us to the midfield that you mentioned. So Cullen and Hendrick, they're definitely shipping a lot of the blame over here last 24, 48 hours, I think, for Ireland not being able to control the game more. How much of it is on them, and how much is it maybe on the team shape? Because others are saying, and I would tend to agree, I thought they both did okay, but there was a lot of work for the two of them to do when the back five was a back five and the other three lads are further up the pitch. You're asking them to cover a huge amount of ground. I wonder, do they just need another man in there? Chelsea have even done that recently.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say at times. As I said before, I've been impressed with Josh Cullen. I have across the whole, really. I think there has been the last couple of games where I've been watching him maybe and thought he could take the ball, he could maybe try and switch play quicker, rather than, as has been the curse of us at times, going back the same way the ball is coming, rather than take it on your back foot, go forward or switch play. I think it's been on so often, and it doesn't happen, and then you get frustrated that play's becoming quite condensed, and it's quite easy then to go on a press against that, because you as soon as that ball's played in, and they look for that first ball, they go and press it, first touch back towards our own goal, and then obviously they can come up against us and press us, and that's where I feel as though we've been getting caught out a little bit. But I mean, whether it's been Colin Hendrick, who else has been playing in the Malumbi, who else has been? Give me another name there, Joe. I'm just trying to think.
Jason Knight was in the Andorra game. He was
Jason Knight was in
right-hand side. They've tried a couple.
Okay,
I would say
Jamie McGrath was in there as well
for Portugal. For one
of the games.
Cullen's definitely a mainstay. The last couple of games, the last window, Hendrick has definitely won Kenny over, I think. Like, Hendrick wasn't even brought on off the bench against Luxembourg, So I think Cullen and Hendrick are pretty firmly in his mind. And then I guess if you think of Portugal, Kev, away from home, needing a bit of extra solidity, like that's where McGrath comes in. The other one people would have a real hope for is Alan Brown comes back from injury, and he could maybe do, half a Horgan job, but also help out the two boys in midfield. That might be some kind of a balance there.
Yeah, how do you change that system to implement that? We're going with a 2 and maybe 1 ahead of him. I don't know how that's going to be. As you say, can be that.
You'd have to take out one of those front three. So you'd have say Cullen, Hendrick, take your pick between McGrath or Brown. And then you'd have to say, well, Horgan, out you come. Robinson's going to start, obviously, after his performance. Ida starts. So it's a little bit like that. It's you're saying to an Alan Brown, well, get forward and join in the two boys up top when you can. But
and I think,
when we're under pressure, you have to help out the two lads in midfield.
Yeah, and I don't think it's something that I would always stress as well, the importance of the time that lads need to adjust when they start to get in international football. Some start really well, take to it really quickly, and then they might have a lull after a certain amount of games. Maybe Josh Cullen's been a bit like that, I would probably say. Started very well, and I said across the course of his reign, he's been okay, I feel. But I think there is still, in the last few games, where you're watching him going, I think he could take it or do something else with the ball rather than continuously go back where it comes from or go backwards with his first touch. So there are a number of issues with that as well. But Brown's another one that there's been games where he has played well, obviously missed. I think everyone still thinks about the chance. Was it the Slovakia game? What was the chance that he missed in the big one? I think it was Slovakia, wasn't it? Where we still harp on about things that have happened in the past.
I thought that was Heron.
Was that Howard? Was it? I thought it was Alan Brown. Was it not? Who was it?
Interesting.
I thought it was Brown. Brown. Yeah, I can't remember the game now. You're trying to get so much in your head. One of the games anyway where he took a little bit of stick. I think he missed a chance or did whatever happened. And I think that you're looking for scapegoats constantly after every game, and that's what I think it's hard for the younger players to get the head around that at times. That they're playing on a different level now. That you become a scapegoat very, very quickly at playing at international level. The scrutiny on the players, the focus that's on you, it's very different from the level that a lot of these guys have been playing at.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's difficult to comprehend for those lads at times.
Even more so, and I got to take a quick break in a sec here, and I will. Even more so than, say, your day where you were coming in, and you've spoken about this before, and it makes perfect sense, because I was saying, well, how can players do it for their club and it's tougher for country? And you were saying it's the attention, it's the focus, it's the whole nation, whereas if you're playing for Preston, it's not the end of the world. But
I mean, look at even social media as well.
Well, social media.
They're constantly looking at your social media, and before and after every game, you're looking how you're playing. Families send these little things. They're not necessarily getting that to the level that they're getting playing international. It's a mental thing, and that is the. Yeah, I think that they're used to it now, or more used to it now, but it still doesn't detract from the fact that it's still hugely in your mind when you're going into these big games that you've made a mistake prior to it. You might be called up again and you're playing your next game, and you want to do something quickly to try and put that out of your mind from the last game at times. Little things like this, that might not be the rule across the course of the squad or across the whole of the squad, but it definitely does happen to an extent that you're on a different level, absolute different level in every sense of the word.
No, I totally accept that. And I was just going to say, I think for this batch coming through now under Kenny, it's worse than in your day. And I don't mean because of social media. I just think there's such scrutiny of, is Kenny the right man? Is he the wrong man? Every single game is like a referendum for like the 5 days after.
It's doing nobody any favours. It's not obviously Stephen Kenny and his coaching staff, because where are they going to, being asked the questions about where their contract situations are going. But the players themselves, absolutely, it's not good. It isn't good for them, especially when we've got so many young players that are looking to progress and do well for themselves. And it's hard to handle. It is hard to handle because they're on that different level.
Yeah. So and we say first win in 13 competitive games. So for Gavin Bazunu, Oman Bamidele, Adam Ida, Josh Cullen, Jamie McGrath, Troy Parrott, Ogbene, it's the first time they've ever had a competitive win. First time they've ever been able to say we got 3 points for Ireland. And they've been going a long time. It's been a long wait. I'd say they've had some tough evenings and tough flights home and thinking, oh my God, the whole country must hate us.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing for those younger players. Absolutely, will be beneficial to them. It will bring them on. But I think it'll bring them on with what's happened to them anyway early on in the careers. They'll know that they have been feeling the worst of it. They've been feeling the wrath of people that are anti-Kenny, obviously the supportive people that are pro him. So that's been the difficulty, I think, really overall. And it is nice for them now that they can look forward.
I have a few more questions for you. Football and Off the Ball is brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Final few thoughts from Kev in just a sec. You're very welcome back. Kevin Kilbane still with us. It's so rare we get you that when we get you, we're working you to the bone here.
I know. Are you? Yeah, I know.
Only 2 more hours left, Kev, and I'll let you go. 2 more hours and you're gone.
I know.
Honest.
I know. Jesus.
I wanted to ask you about Adam Ida and what you make of him, because against Portugal, he had a brilliant game and probably not as good, I would put it to you. I'm asking you can shoot that down if you want on Saturday, but he just seemed to struggle in terms of holding the ball up at times and bringing others into play, and just all of the good stuff we saw against Portugal wasn't quite there. What's your read on where Ida is?
I think he's, for such a young player, I think he's done amazingly well. I do think that. I think he's been great. I think, his hold-up play maybe in 1 or 2 of the games hasn't been as good as it maybe was, or it was maybe in his first few games. But I think something that I spoke about earlier, I think he gives you an option in behind, because he's fairly quick. I'd say he's quick, not lightning quick, but quick enough. I think when he's playing in that role, I think the way that we've played in certain games where we have been under a little bit of pressure, I think he has been a good outball for us. I'd like to see him getting more goal-scoring positions for himself. I think I would like to see him be a bit more selfish and just try to get between the middle of the goals and go and get himself in a position where he looks likely to score a goal, because far too often you're seeing attacks building. He's obviously involved in the initial attack, and then he wouldn't be in a position where you feel as though he's really going to go and get himself a goal. So that's the only issue, I suppose, that you've got with him. And maybe 1 or 2 others with his hold-up play. I would probably agree with that as well to an extent. But again, younger player, inexperienced, who has, in my opinion, done very, very well across the games that he's played. No, great.
He's incredibly promising, and he was great against Portugal. Did you ever, because this is what Ida's dealing with and quite a few of the players are dealing with, did you ever have a spell where you weren't being picked for your club and you had to pitch up on international duty, probably without your fitness and your sharpness, and try and perform? Did you ever have spells like that?
Nothing, honestly. I'm not being maybe arrogant, saying this sticks into my mind now.
Here we go.
There's been spells.
Here we go. First name on the team sheet.
No, none of that. But there has been spells where I haven't been picked every week. But I would always think that if I was left out for whatever reason, lack of form or changing a system to suit an opposition or whatever, I'd always feel as though I'd be back in the side the week after. So, not really. No, I wouldn't say that to an extent. But maybe lack of form at times. But when you're not playing particularly well, maybe at club level, and you're coming in and you're chasing it a bit to an extent. You're trying to produce something to try to work yourself back into form. And I always said to you, there's a lot of the time, I remember it was Packy Bonner that said it to me when I first broke into international level, and try and work your club form towards an international fixture. And I absolutely always did that. I'd always look ahead 6 weeks to the next international fixture, that I want to be in decent form, or certainly playing games going into that international game. it meant that much to me, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've no doubt, because it must be really tough for Anita to basically not play for weeks on end, and then pitch up and play in these huge games and have media analysing your performance, guilty of it right here, right now. I do sympathy for how difficult that must be for him, and to try and produce your best stuff when he's probably not as sharp as he wants to be, as young as he is.
No, exactly. I think players are being monitored now with the everything that they're doing on the training ground to try to mirror what they would be doing on a match day, with the high intensity runs, with all the work rate and things like that. But it no matter what you do on that training ground, it can never replicate what you're going to do on a match day. It can't. It simply can't. Just from a mental point of view, more than anything else, I'd feel. So yeah, it is tough for him. It is, and it will be the lack of game time that he gets. Then you have to make decisions once you get to 23, 24. You've got to make decisions on where you want to go with your career. Are you going to be content with just sitting and not necessarily playing week in, week out, or do you want to go and play 40 games for yourself? The moves that I would have made across the course of my career was always, am I going to play? And maybe once or twice, I certainly was. I could have moved to a team and been told that I'm not going to be a first team regular. I'm going to be someone that's going to be playing or a squad player for the first couple of years, and you're almost like work in progress. And I wanted the right thing said to me, that I'm going to play games. And it's different now, don't get me wrong, it is very, very different, but that was the first thing that was in my mind. Am I going to play? And that's the most important thing in my own mind. That's the way I was.
Matt Doherty's another one in that boat. It doesn't seem like it's happening for him at Spurs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. And it's surprising, given that Nuno went in there. You'd think he'd have that trust, wouldn't he? So it's going to be an interesting one to monitor, certainly up to Christmas time for him personally, isn't he? I'm sure he's going to want to play. You get fed up, given the amount of Premier League games he's played over the last few seasons. He wants to play. He wants to play week in, week out. He's been used to doing that. You get yourself in a flow when you're playing every week as well. You start to feel a lot more confident in yourself. So maybe he might have decisions to make. It might be too early to say that from his own point of view there, but I'm sure that will be the case come Christmas if he's not been playing up until then.
Because he would still have Premier League clubs interested.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see it in the last few games, the quality that he's got. As I said before, I thought he's played really well. But it's a difficult mindset to have then, isn't it, for him, that he's gone to such a big club. You want to play for one of the big teams, absolutely do. And he's got himself in a great position now. Do you want to walk away from that? That is, that if you do, there's probably no going back for him. So that's a difficult decision that he's going to have to make.
Yeah. So the way we were talking about this slight change in style and Bazunu going long, for instance, in Baku, I presume like tomorrow night and in other games, we still will see Stephen Kenny's side try and play out from the back. Like this seemed like a Baku approach, as opposed to, well, we're never, we're going long from now on. I wouldn't anticipate that's what we're going to see from a Kenny team. Like I presume we're still going to see centre halves trying to take it off keeper and the team trying to build up from the back whenever possible.
Of course it will be. That will be the case. It will be, yeah. But there is going to be, it's just different options, isn't it, during the game? I think that's been the case across the course of his reign anyway. I think there has been spells where we have gone longer at times. It's the way that the game goes when players have to make those decisions for themselves as the game's going on anyway at times. So it won't necessarily be the message that's coming from him, I'm sure, before the game. But there are little things that you work on that, look, Keith said it in his interview when he was on with you the other week. That's not working. Work it out yourself at times. You might have to go long. There's how many options have you got when you're on the pitch? One, that's your first option. That's your second option, third, or whatever. There's going to be different options that might not be available to you. So you have to change that. You have to change it up. And that's just the decision that's made in running, I suppose, isn't it?
What did you make of Daryl Horgan, Kev? Because he had done so well off the bench several times.
Yeah. We've had that with so many players, haven't we, where they've done great off the bench and all of a sudden they earn the starting place and it doesn't quite work out for them. And there's a number of players over the years where that's been the case. It's difficult to maybe pinpoint at times where he wasn't able to get involved in that first 45 minutes. I just felt at the weekend, as I said before, that once we scored and went in front, we allowed them maybe too much of the ball. We were maybe set off. We weren't going pressing like we were. The chances that came for us in that first half were absolutely from counter-attacking positions that I thought was great to watch at times. knowing that when that press was coming, but he just wasn't able to get into the game because of maybe how we were playing, and it's just for his own point of view, he's just got to try and park that, put it to one side. Didn't play particularly well. He might be back on the bench now for a few games and try to do it off the bench for a few matches. That might be the only way that he can go about things. But I think he's done okay. As I said, I think he certainly. If I'm thinking of our best 11 when we're going to be going into a game, I probably wouldn't be picking Daryl Hogan in my best 11. But he's a very good option for us as a 12th, 13th, 14th, whatever man off the bench. I think he's definitely earned that right to be a player that can make an impact coming in as a substitute. Yeah,
it's amazing, really, the way it's gone for McLean, isn't it? Like, as you said, that was one of his best games for Ireland, you would say, and he's had some very, very good games
I'd go
for
along
Ireland.
with that.
Yeah. And even the moment where Robinson flicks the ball to him and he runs 60 yards full pace. I mean, he still had a burst of pace as well. I'm sure Adamita's saying, "Come on, mate," but he was taking that shot no matter what.
Exactly, because it would have been a worldie, wouldn't it? But no, it was on for the pass as well. But no, I think I was saying before, I think he's been great. I'd always look to the left side positions. I think he did struggle at times defensively when he was playing in that role, and I felt as though that he didn't know whether he was a winger, didn't know whether he was a fullback, too deep, playing from behind, not necessarily knowing when to go. I think there's maybe uncertainty in himself when playing in that new role. But it looks to me like it's been worked on. He's learnt it, and he's done well.
Yeah, I guess the other one to mention finally is Duffy, because this was just unforeseeable some time ago. He looks to be, I don't know, pretty close to top of his game, and even like a couple of brilliant passes fizzed into players' feet that I'm not so sure he was necessarily playing a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'd probably argue the fact is, maybe a couple of games haven't really gone from playing at international level. If everyone makes mistakes, that's the way that it's been across us all. I think his international career has been pretty good across the course of his career. I think he's been very, very good, and I think he was unlucky to be dropped early on in Stephen Kenny's reign. I know that his club form wasn't great at the time when he was playing for Celtic, but I think he was very unlucky to be left out, given what he's produced playing in an Irish shirt. I was disappointed actually that he was left out when he was, and I think now he's proved to be our best centre half. I think he's gone. I think we're all maybe John Egan's actually done very, very well, and I know you mentioned Darragh O'Shea before, who's another one who's done very well. But his level of consistency in an Irish shirt, I think, apart from the odd game here and there where he has made mistakes, has been up there with the best of them. I would say that. I think he's been so good when he's played. I think his consistency, his threat from set pieces for us, it has across the course of his reign has been there, hasn't it? You and I, even when I was in the studio, we were looking, if we're going to win this game, it's going to be 1-0 and Duffy's going to score. He was looking like our most likely option for a goal at times. So he still brings that threat for us. Probably should have scored at the weekend, shouldn't he? He had a great chance at the weekend, should have scored. So there are a number of players where you're looking, and he's certainly one of them, that he will definitely have gained a lot of confidence with what's happened, certainly at club level. I was absolutely pleased with the way things are going from at Brighton. And we all know how disappointed he is. It was his team, every one of us growing up would have wanted to play for Celtic, would have wanted that opportunity to go and play for Celtic. I know I would have done. And he took it. He grabbed it with both hands, and it just didn't work out for him. It's just the way that it is. Look at Celtic now, where they are. Look where they've gone to over the last few years. I think there's probably been a number of issues at the club, and it certainly wasn't just Shane Duffy being an issue there for Celtic. There was issues at the club, and he's been the scapegoat for a lot of what happened last season at Celtic. Yes, his form wasn't great, and he did make mistakes, and he didn't look great when he was playing up there. But as I was saying, there's a number of other issues aside of what was happening with Shane Duffy. So he's been the one that I'd be looking at and thinking, you've done yourself a lot of. You can be proud of yourself, because of what's happened to him personally over the last 18 months. Yeah,
for sure. Well, listen, it's great to get your thoughts on all that. So sum it up for us. You're a bit more excited by the performance on Saturday. Obviously, still 2 big games to go against Portugal and Luxembourg, and should they go horrifically badly, then the pressure's right back on the manager, because that's the way football is. But I sense from you like that was the beginnings of a corner turned, if not fully around the corner, but the beginnings of something maybe.
I'd like to think I've been very supportive of him. His interview with Nathan across the summertime, as I was saying before, I loved his analysis of the Portugal-Germany game at the Euros and how he saw it. And I thought it was great to listen to him talking about France against Hungary as well. I thought it was great listening to him. I didn't like the fact is, actually, I will say this, I didn't like the fact is that he started to talk about other managers before him and the technical aspects of his team against them. I didn't like that. I don't think that's something that he needs to be even focused on, talking about past performances. I know it might be something that's thrown at him, he was talking about the technical aspect. I think it was Gibraltar and another one during that interview. I didn't like that because I just think that you're concentrating on what you're doing. And I have to say, I wasn't impressed with, as I was saying before, the attacking aspect from a lot of his performances. The best performance I felt was Portugal, and we had 30% possession in the game. But that was always going to be the case against Portugal. We found a way to get at them, attack them. We did deserve more from that game, and we probably deserved to win the match. But I think you've got to judge him on chances. I would feel, my own opinion, yes, there's a technical aspect to the game, and there's about progression and how the players are receiving the ball, how we're controlling games. But I want to be excited when I watch an Ireland team. I want to see balls in the penalty area, in the final third. What are we doing in the final third? How are we being creative? Is the movement off the ball? Is someone taking a chance? Are they being given the license to take a chance in the final third? And yet, Saturday was far from perfect against Azerbaijan. We didn't play well, and I'll take that on board. But I felt as though there was a lot in the final third to be excited about. And there's ways now that I think that players will come on from that as well. So we'll look at the Qatar game and let's judge that going forward. But it is about the qualifiers now going forward for him. As I said before, I've hated the narrative all the way through. He's not qualified enough, or he is qualified enough. He's our best coach, he's our worst coach. Whatever you were saying, it was doing nobody any good. It's not helping the team. It's not helping the young players that's been coming into the team. I really feel that. As much as there's been a lot for me personally when I've watched the games, thinking I've not really enjoyed watching the games, I'm still thinking that the players are going to suffer off the back of the negativity that goes with those bad results. So Saturday showed me that, we simply do have to give him more time. Where are we going to go to? If we got rid of him after this campaign, Joe, where are we going to go to? Are we going to say, right, the list will be, of course, Sam Allardyce, it will be Chris Shuton and others? Are they going to play the style of football that Stephen Kenny's been playing for the last 18 months? Are we going to, what are we going to do? We are in limbo a little bit at the moment. And personally, I would just like to think, I hate to think that we're going to sacrifice a campaign, because that's what we've done here, essentially. We've sacrificed going to a World Cup. That kills me, because I think that we've always got to be competitive in every game. Even if we're not playing well in matches, how we stop in opposition. And I've constantly said that. And we haven't done that enough, I don't think. But I think there's a lot now within that group of players that are used to everything that Stephen Kenny's been doing. Mm-hmm. And I think he deserves that chance now to take that group of players into the next campaign. And then we've got 15, 20 competitive games to look at. And then we can view him maybe after the European qualifying campaign.
Listen, thank you so much for your time. We won't pester you for at least a month, I promise. Kevin Kilbane, great to chat to you, my
Thanks,
man.
Joe.
Take care. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Well
Cheers.
done.
Thank you very much. Kevin Kilbane there. Football and Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Big thanks to Kevin Kilbane there. Really good with his time. Good to check in with the man. You're welcome back. If you're just tuning in, you've missed Andrew Trimble and Fiona Coughlin talking rugby. You can get all of our content in the OTB Sports app. It's in your app store. Just search OTB Sports and you'll find it there waiting for you for free. Houses all our content. And you will be able to stream the show, which means up next, Kevin Kilbane is coming your way.